Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the campfire. Grab something warm to drink, settle in, and let's sit with something together. Today isn't about trying to convince anyone of anything. It's simply an invitation to wonder. Because sometimes the questions that unsettle us at first become the ones that eventually set us free. What if one of humanity's oldest survival strategies was believing that danger was always just around the corner? Not because our ancestors were irrational, not because they were somehow less intelligent than we are. Quite the opposite. Because they were beautifully human. I know I've shared this thought experiment before, but let's imagine it again for just a moment. Imagine you're standing outside 3,000 years ago. The sun disappears in the middle of the day. The moon turns red. Lightning tears across the horizon, or thunder rolls across the hills. The earth trembles beneath your feet. A bright comet suddenly appears in the sky. A child collapses without warning, their body shaking uncontrollably. Someone wakes in the middle of the night, unable to move, convinced a presence is sitting on their chest. A healthy young person becomes gravely ill overnight. The rains never come. The crops begin to wither. The river floods its banks. A loved one dies from a fever no one can explain. What story would you tell? Honestly, what else could you think? Would you research neuroscience, meteorology, virology, psychology, astronomy, plate tectonics? Probably not, because those maps didn't exist yet. You would reach for the stories your community had trusted for generations. And I know I would have too, because that's all any of us can do. We make sense of the world with the maps we have. Our ancestors weren't foolish. They were deeply observant. They noticed patterns. They searched for meaning. They asked the very same questions we still ask today. Why did this happen? What does it mean? How do we stay safe? That isn't weakness. It's how humans survive. And honestly, I don't think that's changed very much. We're still meaning-making creatures. We still tell stories. We still search for patterns. The difference isn't that we became more human. It's that over thousands of years, our maps expanded. We've learned about germs, weather systems, the brain, the nervous system, the movement of planets, and the invisible forces shaping the world around us. Not because the mystery disappeared, but because our understanding grew. The universe didn't suddenly become less mysterious. We simply learned a little bit more about how it works. Science didn't steal the mystery. It handed us a better flashlight. And I really love that, because every new discovery doesn't seem to close the book. It simply invites us to turn another page. That's what curiosity does. It doesn't shrink wonder. It deepens it. But then I found myself asking something else. If we've updated our understanding of so many things, why do some of our oldest fear stories still organize the way we experience being human? That question has stayed with me, not because I think our ancestors got everything wrong. Far from it, I think they handed us extraordinary wisdom. They also handed us maps, and maps are meant to be revised. Imagine trying to drive across the country with a map drawn 2,000 years ago. You'd probably end up in somebody's goat pasture, wondering where the freeway went. The map wasn't bad. It simply reflected the knowledge available at the time. So maybe the question isn't, were our ancestors right or wrong? Maybe the better question is, have we remembered to update the map? That feels like a much kinder question. And maybe this is where many of us find ourselves today. Not abandoning our ancestors, not mocking them, not pretending we're somehow smarter than they were, simply continuing the very thing they were doing, trying to understand reality with the best tools available. Every generation inherits a map. Every generation also has the responsibility to ask, what have we learned since this was drawn? That isn't rebellion, that's growth. Sometimes I wonder if curiosity itself is one of the greatest acts of gratitude. Because instead of freezing knowledge in time, we honor those who came before us by continuing the search they began. We don't dishonor the first map makers by drawing new maps. We honor them because they were explorers. And so are we. Thank you for spending a little time around the campfire with me today. If this conversation stirred something in you, or raised a question, or invited you to look at an old story in a new way, I hope you'll carry it with you this week. Not as a conclusion, just as a question worth living with. Because I've found that some of life's most beautiful discoveries don't arrive through certainty. They arrive through curiosity. Until next time, be curious, be creative, be compassionate. I'll see you around the campfire.